Talking about Tosefta and the relationship between Tosefta and Mishnah, and actually, as I told you already, this is one of the very long-term debates about the history of one certain rabbinic work, and Tosefta was the case of Tosefta was very puzzling case for the generation of scholars. And maybe actually we will begin with sort of curious, because actually, we have only 2 manuscripts of this book, and even for medieval scholars, for traditional Jewish medieval authors, Tosefta was a very strange book because it suddenly appears in medieval times in their libraries, actually after the inventing of the print. In the first printed edition of the Babylonian Talmud, the editor, Daniel Bamberg, who was, as you probably know, not from Jewish origin, he was a German guy, who received the permission from the Pope to print out the Babylonian Talmud in Venice, and he promised to his readers, that in this period reader was paying before the printing the book for the work of the print. So he promised to the reader to give in this new and very beautiful edition Mishnah, all the treatises of Mishnah. He mentioned 63 treatises of Mishnah and 63 treatises of Babylonian Talmud. The problem is that the Babylonian Talmud have not such a big amount of treatises. We will study the structure of Talmud, and we will see that Talmud doesn't cover all the text of Mishnah. So this is the reason, and how as a modest and good businessman, Daniel Bamberg was about to go to every place to find any substitutes, Jewish books, who could be printed as a substitute to promised treatises, which doesn't exist. So this is the reason why he printed Tosefta, and Tosefta and the appearance of this book in the libraries of medieval authors was a kind of surprise. What actually this book is? This is a book which have actually the same structure of Mishnah, the same amount of orders, the same almost the same amount of treatises, but it's completely different. And what kind of differences we will discuss further. But now we will, and actually, even in this period between the medieval scholars, they had part of them decided it's just properly from the critical point of view. Oh no, sorry. To be even more confused for medieval scholar was that they already knows that Babylonian Talmud, especially Babylonian and Palestinian Talmud too, oftenly quotating something that they call it Tosefta, and have in Babylonian Talmud, in treatise Sanhedrin, if I remember it right, they have a long discussion about certain Tosefta. And even the editor of Tosefta mentioned, they call, as an editor of Tosefta, mentioned a few Talmudic figures, Rabbi Hia, Rabbi Hoshaya, and quotations, and also quotations of these authors appeared there. The problem is that these medieval scholars were unable to find any of these quotations in Tosefta, in our Tosefta. So what happened here? So one of them already, I will not bother you with the name of this medieval Spanish author, told that probably it's different books. Tosefta in Babylonian Talmud or Tosefta in Palestinian Talmud, they are not identical to this Tosefta. So, what actually this Tosefta is? According we have, as I told you, only 2 manuscripts and a printed edition from Daniel Bamberg's typography. So, what actually, and the name is Tosefta. But if the Tosefta is supplement, is an addition to any other book, what kind of book it is? Naturally, it should be Mishnah, because the name, due to the structure and names of treatises, but maybe not. Maybe it should be mentioned that according to the Talmud, the editor of Mishnah, or few editors of Mishnah, they are ancient Tanaim, part of them even before Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. So, if our Tosefta is the addition to Mishnah, to our Mishnah or not? Maybe it's worth to mention that actually, I'm usually telling it to every student, even it's not in the former Russian Empire, that in the history of Tosefta, this certain peculiarity of nature of Tosefta was very evident in one case, which happened with Tosefta here, not really here, but in former Russian Empire. As you know, in Russia, this was this very interesting figure, Nahum Periferkovich, who was the first popularizer and translator of Rabbinic Literature, and he made the translation of Mishnah and Tosefta. It was a long time ago, I don't remember actually when, probably, it was before the Great October Revolution, maybe even in the end of 19th century, something on the rebound between these centuries. And his approach to Tosefta was a classical approach of the scholars in this period, which was, according to a bit naive, that Mishnah, that Tosefta is an addenda, an addition to the sort of commentary to Mishnah. Due to this circumstance, he made this his edition of Mishnah and Tosefta a kind of synoptic edition, apart from Mishnah. And I suppose that before he begins his work, his acquaintance with Mishnah and Tosefta was not very big. So during his work, he made this. He was trying to put a passage from Mishnah with a parallel passage from Tosefta. And you can see this book, even now, it's reprinted again in Russian, and it's, I suppose it's not forbidden to see the book written in Russian, and you will see that sometimes passages from Mishnah and Tosefta fit each other, more or less. But sometimes you have a long passages of Mishnah without any counterpart in Tosefta, and vice versa. You can find long passages of Tosefta without any parallel of Mishnah. So, from this period, the scholars, I'm not sure that the case of Periferkovich made the difference, and from this period, and it was a kind of provoking moment for the scholars to decide what actually happened between Mishnah and